"You'll wire the money by tomorrow morning," Brittany hissed, tossing my checkbook onto the table like garbage. Trent stepped in close. His breath reeked of whiskey and entitlement. "Don't you dare fail us, old woman, or we'll make sure you regret it." I blinked. Not in fear, in clarity. This was my daughter, the child I raised on single paychecks and casseroles. Now she was standing in my kitchen, threatening me like a loan shark. "If you really love me," Brittany added, her tone icy, "you'll do this. Otherwise, maybe it's time you find somewhere else to live." Just like that. I smiled, not because I was amused, but because I knew something they didn't. They thought I'd cave like always, pull from my savings, sell my car, liquidate my retirement. They thought I was weak, alone, predictable, but I've been planning for this moment longer than they've been together. And what they just triggered wasn't guilt. It was war. 2 weeks before that ultimatum, Brittany took me to lunch under the illusion of love. She'd picked a trendy little cafe downtown, bright tile floors, glass walls, waiters in tight black aprons, the kind of place that made me feel like I should apologize for ordering tea. "We've been thinking," she said, stirring her drink with slow, deliberate circles. "It's time we talk estate planning." I smiled. Foolishly. I thought she meant closeness, that maybe she was finally ready to rebuild what we'd lost over the years. That maybe, just maybe, my daughter wanted to know me. But then Trent showed up halfway through the salad. "Traffic was a nightmare," he said, kissing her cheek. "Hope you didn't order anything too expensive, Mom." And just like that, the real reason they invited me unfolded, one sanitized sentence at a time. "You're not using that big house the way you used to," Brittany said. "And if you downsize, you'd free up a lot of equity. It could be a win-win." I blinked, watching her tuck her napkin daintily into her lap, like she hadn't just suggested I put myself out to pasture. "You'd be so much more comfortable in a condo. Elevator access, no yard work, more freedom." What they meant was more access to my money, fewer locks between them and my accounts. Trent leaned in, his smile tight. "Honestly, it's not about money. It's about safety. You fell last year, remember?" My fingers curled around my glass. "Yes, I remember patching up your tax filings while wearing a wrist brace." That shut him up for 5 seconds. Then Brittany flashed her practiced, too white smile. "We just want what's best for everyone, especially now that we're looking at new investment opportunities." Ah, there it was. I looked at them, both of them, and saw it clearly for the first time. The polished manipulation, the tightening noose. They weren't here to help me simplify. They were here to simplify me, trim me down like an overgrown hedge, until I was small, silent, and useful. I sipped my tea and nodded along. "Let me think about it," they smiled. They thought they'd won, but the only thing I was thinking about was how fast a daughter forgets who paid for her second round of IVF, and how suddenly a kitchen can feel like a courtroom when someone you once rocked to sleep starts circling like a vulture. I paid the bill. I didn't say goodbye, and I didn't look back. They'd drained me before. That wasn't new. What was new was how openly they'd stopped pretending to feel bad about it. I co-signed their first mortgage. When they forgot to make payments, I refinanced my car to cover the difference. Trent called it a minor oversight. Brittany said, "You're retired. What else do you need your credit for?" When the IRS came knocking about their back taxes, I paid it, $11,400, just to keep them out of jail. "You're good with numbers, Mom," Brittany said cheerfully. "This probably doesn't even feel like a loss to you." And then there were the IVF rounds. 4 cycles. $42,000. Not a single thank you. Just a text from Brittany that said, "Didn't work. Can you Venmo the next round by Friday?" I told myself they were just stressed, that they'd grow into better people. But 2 days after that lunch, they came by unannounced. Brittany was all fake concern and overdone mascara. "We've thought more about what we said. And honestly, Mom, it's irresponsible for you to just sit on that much liquidity. You don't even enjoy it." I didn't even get a chance to speak before Trent dropped the hammer. "You owe us this." That's what he said. Not asked, not hoped, owed. I stared at him, stunned. "You supported strangers at your job for 30 years, he added, arms folded. but never really supported your own daughter. And that's when it happened. Something in me, something that had stretched and bent for years, finally cracked. And not in a dramatic way. Not loud. It was quiet, final, cold. I stood up slowly, walked to the sink, ran water over my hands just to feel something grounding. They didn't follow me. Brittany kept going like nothing had snapped. I mean, come on, you live in that house like a ghost. We could do so much with it. Flip it. Airbnb. Use the funds properly. And if I say no? I asked, voice calm. Trent didn't miss a beat. Then we'll talk to Alan, get legal advice, see if maybe we should be managing your estate for you. There it was. The threat. The implication I was no longer fit to manage what I'd built. After all, Brittany added, you're not getting any sharper. That one stung. She watched my face and smiled like she'd scored a point. I nodded. Once. Slowly. Okay, I said. Give me some time. They left satisfied. But I wasn't buying time to consider their offer. I was buying time to bury them legally. And I was done calling it love. I waited until the next morning to make the call. Gina picked up on the second ring. It'd been years since we last spoke. She'd been my sharpest protege at the firm before moving into private investigation work. I trained her myself. And she was the one person I knew would never ask if I was sure. I need a file pulled, I said, discreetly, on a man named Trent Davidson. Married to my daughter. I want everything you can get on him. She didn't ask why. She didn't need to. Give me 3 days, she said, and a burner number. Don't use email. That's Gina. Fast, paranoid, and precise. I didn't tell her about the ultimatum. I didn't mention the forged warmth or Trent's little threat about taking legal control of my estate. I didn't have to. By day 2, she'd already sent a secure drop link. One file. Labeled Davidson Personal Holdings. I opened it alone, in the basement, while Brittany was upstairs organizing the kitchen, which really meant deciding which of my things to throw out. Inside the file? A handful of account screenshots. Offshore transfers. Cash purchases of expensive electronics. But one item stopped me cold. A recurring Venmo payment labeled cleaning service. Paid by Brittany. $500 weekly. To someone named J.S.? They don't have a cleaner. I do my own damn cleaning. Attached to the payment logs was an address, Unit 10B, Parkwood Lofts. My eyes narrowed. That building wasn't just expensive. It was familiar. I'd seen Trent pull into that garage once last winter when he said he was at a client lunch. I'd brushed it off then, but Gina hadn't. She'd flagged the lease. Unit 10B, Parkwood Lofts, leased under Trent's name. $3,600 a month. And the emergency contact? Karina B. Not Brittany. My mouth went dry. My hands didn't shake, though. Not yet. The file included photos. Trent holding the lobby door open for a woman with polished nails, long auburn hair, a body made for tight dresses. Laughing. Comfortable. Like he'd done it 100 times. I closed the file. Brittany was still upstairs, humming while she rearranged my spice rack. I walked into the laundry room, closed the door, and exhaled for the first time in 2 days. So this was the truth. The pressure for money wasn't about survival. It was about appearances, about hiding the second life Brittany probably didn't even know about. I picked up my phone, texted Gina one word, continue. Because now I wasn't just protecting my assets, I was documenting betrayal. And this time, I'd be the one building the case. I needed to see it with my own eyes. The next afternoon, I drove to Parkwood Lofts under a name Gina lent me. Evelyn Harmon, interested buyer. Beige sweater, soft shoes, a folder of fake paperwork in my purse. I looked like someone harmless. I played the part well. The leasing manager, mid-30s, too much perfume, long lashes that blinked like Morse code, welcomed me with practiced warmth. We've got a couple studios coming open. Some of our long-term tenants are moving on. She smiled like we were girlfriends, not two women sitting on opposite ends of a lie. I kept my voice casual. Is Unit 10B one of the vacancies? She glanced at her monitor. Oh, 10B? No, that one's still rented. Trent Davidson. He's been here for a while now. Pays on time, always polite. I raised an eyebrow. He doesn't live here though, does he? She laughed, leaned closer like she was sharing gossip over cocktails. No, it's for his fiancée. Stunning girl. Designer, I think. You'd love her. Always in heels. Nails done like a celebrity. Never seen her without her shades. Fiancé. The word punched me in the gut, but I didn't let it show. Instead, I nodded with interest. She sounds glamorous. She is. He's lucky. Then, like it was nothing, he stops by a few nights a week. Brings wine, Chinese takeout, romantic stuff. My hands stayed still on my lap. My heart didn't. Do you have a brochure I can take with me? I asked sweetly. Of course. And here's my card. Let me know if you'd like a tour. I walked out with the brochure, the leasing agent's card, and a smile that could have fooled a jury. I sat in my car in the parking structure for a long time, watched the mirrored windows, the security cameras, the doorway Trent had held open in Gina's photo. This wasn't hard evidence, not yet, but it was something better, in a way. It was a crack, a lie I could push on, a name I could trace, Karina B., a pattern I could chart. I thought about Brittany at home, folding my towels like she was the queen of some small, stolen kingdom. About Trent, walking through my kitchen like it already belonged to him. I thought about the IVF cycles I paid for, while he paid rent for his mistress. Then, I drove home. Parked calmly. Smiled as Brittany asked if I wanted tea. No thanks, sweetheart. I said, I'm just going to rest a bit. And I did. But not before opening a new folder on my desktop. Label, Davidson, Trent. Known assets subfolder, Karina, I didn't want revenge. Not yet. I wanted protection, legal insulation, walls they couldn't climb, no matter how hard they pushed. I wanted Brittany safe, even if she didn't know she needed saving, from the man who'd been draining her trust and parading around with his backup life. But most of all, I wanted this to stop. I wanted to make sure they never tried it again. Not the guilt, not the threats, not the manipulation dressed up as family concern. So I laid out my goal like I used to during corporate audits. Lock down my assets, verify every point of deception, create a paper trail strong enough to hold up in court. Then I called Alan, my estate attorney for the last 18 years, the one Trent clearly thought I hadn't spoken to in a while. Alan, I said, I need to shift everything into a protected trust. Quietly. And I need eyes on every joint financial link connected to Brittany and her husband. He didn't ask for reasons, he just cleared his schedule. The next day, he sent over a revised structure, irrevocable, with an independent trustee, completely separate from Brittany or any living relative. We moved everything. Stocks, bonds, residual payouts, the house, even the antique piano. All of it, locked down. Then Gina dropped another file. This one made everything far too easy. She'd gone deeper. Dug past Trent's shell corporations and looped transactions. Traced the Venmo tag to a PayPal business account, Karina's Closet, a high-end resale boutique registered to Karina Bellingham. Trent wasn't just paying her rent. He was funding her inventory. Handbags, designer shoes, jewelry, purchased using my money. One flagged transaction showed a direct transfer of $9,800 routed through Brittany's joint account from my quarterly disbursement. Memo, emergency home repair. Date, 3 years ago. I remembered it now. Brittany had called crying, said a pipe burst, said they needed it right away or risk losing the home. I wired it without blinking. Karina's boutique launched that same week. I closed the file and stared at my desk. This wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was embezzlement. Personal, deliberate, calculated fraud. And Brittany, God help her, was either too blind to see it or too broken to stop it. But I could. I would. Because I wasn't building a case anymore. I was building an escape hatch, one that only I could open. And once I did, they wouldn't just lose access, they'd lose everything. The next morning, Brittany showed up with croissants, coffee, and a folder thick enough to smother a small animal. "Oh, don't look so serious," she said, kissing my cheek like nothing was wrong. "It's just a little estate housekeeping." She placed the folder right on my kitchen table, my table, and slid it toward me like it was a birthday card. "Alan said it's smart to simplify now. Before anything happens." I opened it slowly, careful not to react too quickly. Right on top, power of attorney. Next, beneficiary transfer authorization. Below that, durable medical directive. Every single document designed to gut me while I was still breathing. I looked up at her. She was already sipping coffee, scrolling her phone like we were finalizing brunch plans. "I don't get it," I said softly. "We already handled all of this years ago." "With Alan," she gave a little laugh. "Yeah, but Trent's friend reviewed it and said there's a faster way, less hassle, less red tape if something goes wrong. Something. Not if you die or when you get sick, just something." She pushed the folder closer. "This just gives us a little more flexibility. You'd still have access to everything." Would I? Or would I end up locked out of my accounts, my name replaced, my signature buried under their control? I looked at the notary line. It was blank. But the witness lines were already filled. Trent's name. And someone I didn't recognize. Likely one of his colleagues. I smiled. Just slightly. Tilted my head like I was considering it. "Of course," I said. "Let me read it thoroughly first. You know me. Old habits die hard." She nodded, pleased. "Of course. Just don't wait too long, okay? The condo paperwork is time sensitive, and Trent's lining up a bridge loan. Once this clears, we'll be in the clear." In the clear. That's what she called draining my life's work to fund a fantasy built on lies. When she left, she hugged me too tightly. Her perfume stayed in the air long after she was gone. It smelled like lavender and expensive lies. I took the folder straight to Alan. He reviewed it silently, flipping pages with the kind of disgust lawyers usually reserve for predatory landlords and crooked wills. Then he looked at me and said what I'd already decided. "We won't sign a word of this." Good, because I wasn't their ATM. I wasn't their safety net. That night, I couldn't pretend anymore. The mask I'd worn all day, steady, calm, unshaken, slipped the moment the house went quiet. No calls, no manipulation. Just the hum of the fridge and the echo of a home slowly being emptied of its meaning. I pulled the photo album from the bottom drawer, sat on the couch with a blanket around my shoulders like armor that didn't quite hold. Page 1, Brittany's 3rd birthday. She's in a paper crown, frosting smeared across her cheeks, one hand wrapped around my finger, the other clutching a balloon string. Her smile was wild, untamed, honest. That day she told me, clear as a bell, "You're my hero." I used to believe her. I turned each page slowly, letting the memories burn. Halloween costumes, skinned knees, her graduation, her wedding, her holding onto my arm in lace and pearls like she needed me, like I mattered. Then I thought of today, the forged documents, the manipulation in her voice, Trent's casual cruelty, and the way she just stood there beside him, letting it happen, smiling through it. My chest ached with something deeper than pain, something like grief, but rawer, louder. I cried. Not quiet, polite tears, the kind that come from somewhere deeper, the kind I hadn't let myself feel since the night I folded my husband's sweaters into boxes I never unpacked again. It hit me all at once, how far we'd all fallen, how much I'd given, how completely I'd been repaid in threats, entitlement, and silence. And worst of all, what Trent was doing to her. The affair, the money siphoned behind her back, the betrayal she hadn't even discovered yet. I had watched my daughter lose herself in that man's shadow, piece by piece, and now she was handing me over like the last thing she didn't know how to carry. It should have made me angry, and it did, but beneath that anger, something softer survived. I still loved her. God help me, I still wanted to protect her. Even now. Even from him. Even from herself. I sat in the dark for a long time after that. Candle flickering low on the coffee table. Tea gone cold. and slowly, I felt the last bit of hope pull away. She wasn't coming back. Not the child I raised, not the girl with frosting on her cheeks. That version of Brittany was gone, and something was ending now. Inside me, around me, in this house. I didn't know how yet, but I knew this. It would all be over soon. 2 days later, I called Brittany. "I've been thinking," I said, letting my voice crack just enough to sound tired. "You're right. It's time to get everything in order." Silence on the other end. Then a cautious, eager breath. "I'm ready to finalize the asset transfers." I continued. "I'll need your help with the paperwork. Can you and Trent meet me Thursday afternoon?" "Of course," she said, too fast. "We'll clear our schedule." I told her I'd booked a private room at the Civic Center downtown. Conference room, B-neutral ground. Big enough for 4 chairs, a folding table, and the kind of conversation that left no room for second chances. Then I called Alan. He didn't ask questions. Just said, "I'll be there, bring everything." I did. The morning of the meeting, I dressed with care. Gray blazer. Wedding ring still on. A folder tucked into my handbag, thick with proof, signed statements, and time-stamped betrayal. When I arrived, the room was already prepped. Alan sat up across from me, calm and unreadable, his briefcase open, files in order. We didn't speak much. There wasn't much left to say. At 2:07 p.m., the door opened. Brittany walked in first, wearing a pale pink sheath dress I'd bought her for a promotion she never earned. Her hair was perfect, her smile stretched thin with anticipation. Trent followed, smug and casual, like this was a signing ceremony and I was the donor. They brought nothing. No folder, no documents, no shame. "Mom," Brittany beamed, crossing the room to kiss my cheek. "I'm so glad you're finally doing this." Trent gave Alan a nod, like he was the one hiring him. I gestured for them to sit. Brittany placed a small notebook on the table, opened it with a flourish. "So we'll just walk through the paperwork and then—" "Let's begin," I said. Alan dimmed the light slightly. He reached into his briefcase. I pulled out my folder and placed it on the table. Neither of them noticed the title on the front, but they would. Because it wasn't the trust paperwork, it was the trap, carefully laid, legally sound, and about to snap shut. I sat back in my chair, folded my hands, and looked at the 2 people I once believed would carry my legacy. They thought this room was the finish line, a sweet, clean ending. But it wasn't. It was the beginning. And the looks on their faces, smug, confident, clueless, were the last calm moments they'd get for a very long time. They sat across from me, already smiling, like the money was already theirs. "Shall we begin?" I asked, calmly. Alan didn't speak. He reached over, dimmed the overheads, and powered on the small projector. I opened the folder. Slowly, deliberately, paper by paper. Trent leaned forward. "You brought everything?" "Oh yes," I said. "I brought everything." I slid out the bank logs, with payment trails. Every cleaning service Venmo sent to JS, and the business registration linking her to Karina Bellingham. Trent shifted in his seat. "This is ridiculous." "Is it?" I asked, laying down the lease. Unit 10B, Parkwood Lofts. Trent Davidson listed as primary. Emergency contact. Karina B. Brittany's smile twitched. She tried to steady it. "What is this, Mom?" she said, a tremor in her voice now. I didn't answer. I just pressed play. Alan had synced the file from Gina's recording. The leasing manager's voice came through, chipper and clear. "Oh, Trent? He rents one of the studios for his fiancée. Designer type. Gorgeous nails." Trent's face drained of color. His jaw tensed. His hands clenched the armrests. And Brittany, my daughter, blinked like the room had tilted sideways. "She's lying," Trent muttered. "This is garbage." "No," I said. "This is evidence." Alan laid down the next sheet. The document Brittany had handed me 2 days ago. Power of attorney, forged witness lines, an attempt to seize control. Brittany didn't speak. She just stared at the pages, like she couldn't figure out where the floor had gone. "You wanted my trust," I said, "and now you have it, in full view, on record." I closed the folder, sat back in my chair. The silence was so heavy it pressed into the walls. Brittany looked at Trent. Trent didn't look at her. And me? I wasn't angry anymore. I was finished. Alan didn't rush. He took his time pulling out the final document, the one they didn't see coming. He slid it to the center of the table, face up. His voice was calm, measured. "Effective immediately," he said. "Ms. Rose and Mr. Davidson are removed as successor trustees and beneficiaries from the estate of Mrs. Evelyn Rose, under grounds of attempted coercion and documented financial fraud." The words hung in the air like smoke. Trent's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Brittany blinked, slow and glassy-eyed, as if someone had just turned off the lights in her brain. Alan continued, his tone absolute. "This revocation was filed last night, along with a petition to formally investigate prior disbursements. All real property and financial accounts are now under protective legal custody, with oversight assigned to our firm." Trent found his voice. "You can't do this." "I didn't," I said. "You did." He started to rise, but Alan stopped him with a single look. "The check," I said, pointing to the forgery. "The payments, the condo lease, the affair, the attempted power grab. It's all documented. Legally." Brittany still hadn't spoken. She looked like a child waking up from a dream where she was rich, powerful, adored, and realizing none of it was true. Her voice, when it came, was so soft I almost didn't hear it. You had someone follow us?" "No," I said. "I had someone protect me." I turned to Alan. "Is there anything else?" "One more thing." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out 2 envelopes. Thick, sealed. "These are formal notifications of their removal from all estate documents and financial accounts. You'll find court notice dates and the restraining order petitions inside." "Restraining order?" Trent laughed, short, bitter, ugly. "You're seriously doing this?" "You forged a check," I said. "You cheated on my daughter. You tried to take everything I built." I leaned forward, steady as I've ever been. "You didn't just underestimate me, Trent. You forgot who raised her." Brittany's head snapped toward me, but I didn't soften. Not anymore. "You wanted control," I said, rising slowly. "You got exposure." I pushed the chair in, smoothed my blazer, and picked up my folder, the real one. "I suggest you read those documents carefully," Alan added, "and retain your own legal counsel." I walked toward the door without looking back. Behind me, chairs scraped. A curse, a sharp breath, the sound of a life, 2 lives, falling apart. They'd brought their appetite for power. I'd brought evidence. And now? They could choke on it. They left the Civic Center in silence. By the end of the week, Brittany left Trent. I don't know what happened between them exactly. I didn't ask. But I imagine the conversation wasn't calm. Not after she saw every receipt, every payment, every lie, all of it laid out under fluorescent lights, with no room left to pretend. She showed up at my door 3 nights later. No makeup, hair pulled back, her eyes red and swollen. "I didn't know," she said. I believed her, not because she earned it, but because I could finally see it, clear and painful, how much she had looked the other way just to keep loving him. "He emptied our accounts," she said, voice trembling. "There's nothing left." I let her come in, gave her water, let her sit at the same table where she once pushed power of attorney papers across the wood like she was offering me dignity. Now she was just trying to breathe. "I'm not asking for anything," she said. "I just didn't know where else to go." I nodded, but I didn't reach for her hand. Not yet. She moved out the next day, rented a small apartment near the bookstore where she used to work before she got caught up in Trent's fantasy life. I didn't offer to co-sign. I didn't offer money. She didn't ask. Trent, on the other hand, didn't go quietly. When the fraud filings hit his professional record, he lost 3 major clients in a single week. Gina said she heard from one of his former partners. Apparently, they're considering legal action of their own. Misuse of funds, misrepresentation, possible breach of fiduciary duty. He sent me one email, just one line. "You ruined everything." I didn't respond. He ruined himself. And Brittany? She started over. No gold tie. No matching Instagram couple shots. No fake brunches or boutique openings. Just quiet. Alone. Working nights at a cafe. Paying her rent. I saw her once, downtown, handing a latte to a stranger. She didn't notice me. But I saw something on her face I hadn't seen in years. Honesty. It didn't undo what she did. But it was a beginning. The story they thought they were writing. The one where they stepped over me to fund their lives. That story ended in a civic center, under cheap lights, with a folder full of truth. And the sequel? Well, that one belongs to me.